When I was in the 4th grade, my family moved into a new house in Cypress, California. From the outside, it looked like any normal home on the block, but on the inside, it was far from ordinary. The previous owner had remodeled the upstairs, turning what used to be 4 bedrooms into one large, open loft. At first, everything seemed fine, but soon, strange things began to happen, things that only us kids seemed to notice. On the very first day we moved in, we saw something that made our blood run cold. A spice rack sitting at the back of the kitchen counter suddenly slid forward all by itself across the tiles, over the edge, and crashed to the floor. When we told our parents, they didn't believe us. They thought one of us had done it and was trying to make up a story. But as the weeks went by, the strange activity continued and got worse. The clock in the kitchen would sometimes leap off the wall and land perfectly on top of the refrigerator, never hitting the ground. The TV and stereo would turn on by themselves, always tuned to a dead channel filled with static. 3 or 4 times a week we'd hear scratching sounds coming from the east side of the house, but there were no trees or bushes there. Sometimes my little sister and I could hear footsteps or movement coming from the upstairs closet, even when no one was up there. Our parents kept insisting it was just our imagination, until one terrifying night proved them wrong. That night, my sister Keena and I, along with 2 of our other sisters, were up in her section of the loft watching TV. Suddenly we began to hear faint music coming from the other side of the loft, from the area where our other sisters' beds were. We decided to check it out, but as soon as we walked around the corner near the stairs, it happened. From outside my sister's window, a voice began calling her name in a raspy, whispering tone. That was all we needed. We bolted down the stairs, our sisters running right behind us. We ran to our dad, terrified, and told him everything. He grabbed a flashlight and headed upstairs, and of course, we all followed close behind. The house was so quiet you could hear our footsteps echo. When he pulled back the curtains on window, every one of us froze. There were 2 smeared handprints on the outside of the glass, and hanging from the roof beam above the window was a noose. My dad immediately thought someone had tried to break in, so he called the police. The police searched the entire house and the surrounding yard, but found nothing. Then they told my dad something that made his face go pale. Years earlier, before the previous owner, the house belonged to another family, and they had a teenage daughter. One day, when her parents came home early, they found her hanging from a noose at that same window, and on the outside of the glass were 2 smeared handprints, exactly like the ones we had just seen. That was all my dad needed to hear. We packed up and moved out that same week. Even now, every time I drive past that old house, I get the same uneasy feeling, like someone is still watching me from that window. And to this day, whenever I hear a sound outside my window at night, I hesitate to look, because deep down, I'm afraid that something or someone might be looking back. Back in 2003, I had a girlfriend who had just moved into a new home. I pretty much lived with her at that time. My life wasn't going great. I was going through a rough phase, and that house soon made things even stranger. After a few weeks, she started telling me that she thought the house was haunted. She said she could hear noises, and sometimes she'd see things moving out of the corner of her eye. I didn't believe her at first. I just thought she was imagining things. But as time went on, I started noticing it too. The house had this strange energy. I began hearing noises at night and seeing shadows in my peripheral vision. Still, I wasn't completely convinced until 3 nights in a row changed everything. The first night was a Tuesday. We went to bed around 10 p.m. My girlfriend fell asleep right away, but I just couldn't. Around 11 p.m., I started hearing a faint but very strange sound. It was like a huge metal door slamming shut over and over again, kind of like those heavy dungeon doors you'd hear in old castles. The sound was distant at first, but as time passed, it started getting louder, like it was slowly coming closer. After about an hour, it finally stopped, and I was relieved. The next morning, I told my girlfriend about it, but she said she hadn't heard a thing. The second night was even worse. Again, we went to bed around 10, and again, I couldn't sleep. The same noise came back, louder this time. I even woke her up and asked if she could hear it. She looked confused and said she didn't hear anything at all. That's when I started wondering if I was losing my mind. The strange part was the noise only happened when I closed my eyes. When I opened them, it would fade a little but never stop completely. It would last for about an hour before fading away again. I didn't know what to think, dream or reality. I couldn't tell. Then came Thursday night. I was honestly scared to go to sleep. Everything seemed quiet at first, no sounds, no movement. But then it started again. Only this time it was much, much louder. The banging was so intense that my head actually shook with every impact. My ears started to hurt with each crash of metal. I opened my eyes and the noise didn't stop. It got even louder. It was deafening, like a freight train roaring inside the house. I couldn't understand how my girlfriend was still asleep through all of that. Then I looked toward the bedroom door and froze. The noise suddenly stopped. In the doorway, I saw what looked like a small human figure, or maybe a black mist shaped like one. It hovered for a moment, then slowly faded away. I shook my girlfriend awake and told her everything. She looked at me like I was crazy. She hadn't seen or heard anything at all. After that night, nothing like that ever happened again in that house, but I'll never forget those 3 nights.